Welcome to Cold Open. My name is Katie Larson and I am the creator of this app. We will be running this app on the local server 3000 here, which is just the Rails server. Eventually it will be deployed using Heroku. A version of this app has already been deployed using Heroku. This particular iteration of it employs jQuery and JavaScript for increased functionality. So this is our home page right here. It's a basic CRUD app designed in Ruby on Rails, and you can see the basic sorts of about page. It's basic. It's here to track what's in your freezer, and it uses FDA guidelines for tracking the expiration dates for items that are in your freezer. So we are just going to use a basic sign-in. You can sign up using your Google Plus account or Facebook right here. I am just going to go ahead and log in with Facebook because I already have an account there, and it uses OmniAuth on the back end to do this. Alright, so this is the user landing page, and you can see some of our basic nav bars here. You have the top nav bar and then the bottom nav bar down here. Home, which is this page. Freezers, which is a list of your freezers. It's the index page. Items, a list of the items you have in your freezers, all items. Items by type. I'll talk about type actually in a minute. That's one of the FDA guidelines. Items that are expiring this month. And then, of course, a sign out. So on the landing page, we have chicken broth and stew. These items are already expired. And then we have no foods that are expiring this week. So I'm just going to start going through the nav bar. Go to freezers. This is an index page right here for freezers. You can take a look at like a chest freezer and an office chest freezer. So freezer, let's just do freezer chest. There's going to be an index page for the items that are in your freezer. So click here. Ta-da! This is using jQuery to generate this list of items. So let's take a look at chicken broth right here. So to gravy and broth, that is actually going to be our item type. This is the date stored, expiration date, which is calculated again based on FDA guidelines. It's stored in the chest freezer, and it's going to have a series of notes. You can also create notes if you want. And then we have a smaller group of options: items list, edit item, and delete item. So again, we're looking at the basic data storage, the CRUD options. The items here on the bottom and then right down here are all operated using the Ruby on Rails server, so we're looking at a lot of data backend work. But the notes are really what I'm going to focus on here. If you're interested in more of that functionality, you can certainly see my other video, which is of the same app, that describes the backend use of these items. So show notes. Oh, hey, look at all of my beautiful notes. Note 7, Note 8, and you can see this is just going to be a general note. These are all the notes that are related specifically to the items. Again, it's generated using jQuery, but it is saved to the database, of course. We're using an internal API to do that. So let's just create a note. You can do hide notes. We'll do just create a note right here. New note. Let's say hello world. That is our new note. Submit. Note created. Great. Okay, and there's our new note. Yay! And if you do show notes, go all the way down, there is our new note. Hide notes again. Well, no, we'll do show notes right now. So I'm going to update note 1, and I'm going to see, just going to change it to note 1 right there, and then update note, note updated, and note 1, and then hide notes, show notes, note 1 again. So you can see again up in the URL area right here that we aren't actually changing any pages, we aren't making any calls. This is entirely in the DOM. So just basic functionality. Again, the notes are not super complicated there. In items, we also have anywhere in the app you can click on items, and it appends your items to the DOM right here. So we can go items by type. Now we're going to make a server call. Gravy and broth, stew meat, beef uncooked. Again, these items are actually generated by the FDA. Hot dogs, there's a separate item for hot dogs. And then these, you can click on the item itself. The date stored, expiration date, calculated based on the FDA guidelines. So if you're interested in seeing count here, we're not an admin. I'm going to go ahead and edit our user so that we can be an admin. Right there, and you can see you can have any kind of image, whatever you want. So now I'm an admin and I actually have another option here. I used Pundit to do the authorizations. So this is a list of all the different types of food that are possible, again from the FDA, because I found that freezer apps typically, they're great for telling you what you've stored in the freezer, when you stored it, etc. But they're not very good at telling you how long it's good for, which is something I personally run into a lot of problems with. You can create a new type. The FDA usually updates this stuff fairly regularly. That is an option I will consider limiting. So meat casseroles, you can click on it, and you can see the details of it. If the guidelines at all change, if they decide that meat casseroles are only good for 2 months or whatever like that. So the storage minimum, storage maximum, and then you could update the item type, or you can delete the item type if you need to for whatever reason. So everything else is basically, CRUD, add a new freezer. We'll just Chester, that sounds great. This is going to be a chest freezer. It's not going to have any existing items. We'll just create a brand new item and then we'll create some notes for it. Let's just say in Chester there's a frozen chicken, date stored, let's see, what's today's date? The 16th, 2018. Select an item type, and you have a whole big list. I think there's one for chicken, poultry, leftovers, chicken, whole, uncooked, perfect. And then you can add a note straight up right here. I'm just going to say 3 to 4 pounds. That's how big the chicken is. Create freezer. Hey, there's Chester the freezer. Click here to see items. There's our frozen chicken. Right there. And we have our date stored, and that's just going to clearly be our expiration date. In the case of frozen chicken, we don't have an expiration minimum, so we don't have like an expiration range. We just have a hard, this is when it's not good by. So we have about a year on that, which is great. And we can click show notes, and there's our note, create note. We can say it's a golden plump chicken. Perfect. Submit. Note created. Great. Golden plump. There we go. And we have our 2 notes right there. So that is the basic functionality of this app. So you can see, here we have hot dogs, chicken. Everything has been saved to our database, which is SQL for development. So currently we're running off of, not SQL. It is SQLite for development, and for Heroku, of course, we use Postgres. All right, well, thank you very much for checking this out, and I urge you to check out for a more extensive walkthrough of this app, my previous video going through the basic functionality. Have a good day. Bye.